Hi, good morning to everybody, all of you. Let me provide you a warm welcome to this info session focused on Destination 2 of Horizon Europe Cluster 1, Living and Working in a Health-Promoting Environment. Before starting the session, let me introduce myself. My name is Carmen La Plaza. I am the Head of Unit of Health, Innovations and Ecosystems in DG Research and Innovation of the European Commission. And I will be supported today by two of my colleagues that I will introduce now and that will be answering most of your questions. They are Rita Orojo, team leader of Environment and Health in our unit, and Tim Rijmakers, who is policy officer working on brain and mental diseases in the unit combating diseases of DG Research and Innovation. So Destination 2 of Horizon Europe Cluster Health is the main Horizon Europe hub for environment and health research. The main objective of this destination is to fill the knowledge gaps in the understanding of the impacts on our health and well-being of those risk factors that have the most significant or widespread societal impacts. In 2025, we do have two topics under Destination 2. Both topics similar in terms of budget, both topics with a 40 million euros budget. One of the topics is focused on the impact, it's expecting the evidence on the impact of pollution on the development and progression of brain diseases and disorders. And the second topic is aiming at advancing the knowledge on the impact of micro and nanoplastics on human health. Important to note that these two topics do require clustering activities, as is often the case in topics funded in Destination 2 of Cluster Health. Both topics are also two-stage, and another commonality between both of them is that consortia are required to share chemical data, including human biomonitoring data, in the information platform for chemical monitoring of the European Commission, IPChem. I hope that before joining this session, you had the opportunity to watch the video that is available in the Info Day website that is providing more information about the context of these two topics. So, before starting, maybe just to tell you that we will be using the sliders, so I hope you have been encoding your questions, or you will be doing during this session. And please, an important aspect is that it will facilitate our life if you add reference to the topic number when you introduce your question. We will be only focusing on content-related questions, as questions on horizontal or cross-cutting issues were the subject of an earlier session this morning. And I think that we are ready now to answer to your questions, so go ahead and please start writing in the Slido. All right, so a first question on brain health and pollution that is asking whether proposals with a multi-pollutant approach would score higher than those looking at singular pollutants. Rita, Tim, who would like to answer this question?
I can take the question. So the answer to this question is no. Depending on the research questions addressed, the proposals can adopt an approach where the impacts of a combination of pollutants on brain diseases and disorders is studied, or if it is justified, focus on a specific pollutant that has relevance for the target health outcomes that are studied in this research proposal. So yeah, there is no higher score for proposals that are targeting one pollutant or more than one pollutant. The score will be the same.
Thank you, Rita, very clear. The second question that I see is focusing also in this topic, asking whether there is a focus exclusively on chemical pollution. No, Actually, no. The focus is not only on chemical pollution. Any type of pollution that would have a potential impact on the development or progression of brain diseases or disorder is in the scope of the topic. I don't know, Rita or Tim, whether you want to complement that answer?
Yes, I would like to add something because we received 2 questions in Slido about this topic. So I think that maybe some more explanations are needed. So what is covered when we talk about pollution in this call is any type of pollution. Chemical pollution is mentioned in the text of the call because we wanted to provide an example where when we are describing the importance of this area of research and the achievements until now, we wanted to provide an example of existing evidence on the impacts of pollution. In this case, it was chemical pollution that was mentioned and its impacts on neurodevelopment. Chemical pollution is also mentioned when we are referring to the requirement you just mentioned of sharing chemical monitoring data in IPChem. But this does not mean in any way that the call is focused on chemical pollutants only. If you look at the description of the research activities that are to be covered by the proposals, there is no mention to a specific type of pollution. All relevant pollutants to the research questions that are under study can be included in the proposals that are submitted under this topic.
Thank you, Rita, for these compliments in these questions that maybe needed some further explanations, as you said. A second question is focusing on the topic of microplastics. Sorry, not a second, this is already the third question, excuse me. In the topic of microplastic, and is asking whether environmental impacts of microplastics are in the scope of the topic or only those related to health, and what if they are related. Rita, this is for you.
Yes, so the focus of this call is the study of micro and nanoplastics on human health. So this is the focus and not on environmental health. So the studies should be focused on human health. To study this question, information on environmental aspects might be needed. For example, monitoring of concentrations of micro and nanoplastics in the environment, or understanding the levels of exposure, or determining realistic test materials. So, of course, the environmental aspects might be considered in the activities, but the impacts of micro and nanoplastics in the environment per se is out of scope of the topic.
Thank you. We go back to the first topic with a question that is asking whether proposals can focus on integrating and analyzing existing datasets and cohorts, or better to prioritize the data generation over data reuse. Before providing you the floor, Rita, for answering this question, I would like to remind to our participants that it's better to add the topic number, as I mentioned at the beginning, because that will facilitate the allocation. Because I see a question from Marta where I do not see the reference to the topic. So Rita, data generation, data reuse, or both are possible?
We strongly encourage proposals to reuse existing datasets and cohorts whenever these are fit for purpose of the proposed research activities. Building on existing data will, of course, maximize the impact of previous research efforts, but the generation of new data is completely in line with the scope of the call. And if the data that are needed to develop the research activities are not available, of course, data generation is completely in scope.
Thank you. So now we have a question. Rita, I will pass to you. I hope you recognize the topic. It's asking about a concrete sentence of a proposal saying to consider the use of experimental methods not using live animals. This means that we should avoid in vivo methods and in vitro would be sufficient. Do you recognize the topic?
I think it applies to both topics.
Okay.
Yeah. but the answer is no, not at all. The objective of including this sentence and in the description of the topic, and it's included for both topics, is to encourage whenever it is relevant and when alternatives of similar quality exist. So we want to encourage the use of non-animal methods. The use of in vivo approaches is not discouraged when these methods represent the best option to answer to a specific research question. So the answer to this question is no. You should not avoid the use of in vivo methods when it's relevant to use in vivo methods.
Thank you. So here we have a question on whether proposals can only be submitted to one of the topics per destination, or is it possible to submit thematically more open to a destination? Well, in any case, you can submit proposals to the two topics if you have sufficient operational capacity in order to ensure that you would be able to comply with the commitments after having submitted two proposals for the same destination. So there is no reason not to do it, just as long as you have the operational capacity. Whether you can submit a proposal, if I understand well the question, that would be kind of tackling both topics of the destination. There is nothing against that, but at the same time I see it particularly difficult as the topics are quite different. So I do not see whether you would manage in the context of the same proposal to be able to comply with the expected outcomes of both. But I don't know whether, Rita, you want to complement my answer to this question.
No, nothing in particular to add. I mean, yeah, the scope of both topics is quite different. So, I mean, if you are submitting proposals to both topics, I think they need to be also in terms of content and scope and objectives quite different. But if you have the capacity to provide draft two proposals addressing the research questions that we included as part of scope of the topics, yeah, why not?
All right, so moving back to micro and nanoplastics topic, there is a question asking whether they can include studies around behavior, even if this is not listed in the activities. For example, stakeholder or public engagement elements. Well, I think that as long as you comply with what is requested, nothing prevents you to add other activities. But the important for us is that the questions, research questions we are addressing or the activities listed in the topic are tackled. But Rita, maybe you want to complement.
Yeah, nothing special to say. Of course, these aspects are not the core of the topics that are in Work Program 25 for Destination 2, but if it's relevant for the research questions that are addressed in the call, of course you can include behavioral aspects and stakeholder engagement activities in the proposal.
Thank you. So now we have a question which is again targeting the potential mix between both topics, and it's asking whether in the first topic in projects on pollution, whether it would be possible to also include the angle of micro and nanoplastics as environmental contaminants within a specific work package within the plant activities. Quite a concrete question. Rita or Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, I will take this one as well. We have in this work program a topic which is fully dedicated to the health impacts of exposures to micro and nanoplastics. And for that reason, we expect topics that are focusing on these aspects to address the impacts of exposure to micro and nanoplastics on the development and progress of brain diseases and disorders to be submitted to the second topic. However, if the proposals focus on this specific issue, that I mentioned, brain diseases and disorders, and are using a multi-pollutant approach, which includes, among other pollutants, micro and nanoplastics. The proposals could be also under scope of topic 1.
Thank you, Rita. So now we have a question on how much should proposals contribute to policy support? Example, regulatory frameworks, development of standards versus advancing basic scientific knowledge. Thanks for this question, which is quite important in the context of Horizon Europe. In this area of research, like in many others, it is extremely important to generate a basic scientific knowledge that can make a field advance. That's very important. But it is also very important for us that this information is complemented with ensuring that the knowledge that will be generated, the evidence will be able to be uptaken and used, because only by doing that we will be able to have impact with our research efforts. So standardization, any kind of measures to facilitate regulatory uptake are important in most of our topics. And as example, maybe in the context, for example, of micro nanoplastic, which is a very emerging area of research, clear that there is the need of a lot of information, basic scientific knowledge still. But it's also very important to provide evidence that would be able to inform risk assessment frameworks, potentially legislative measures. So I think these importance are this kind of also policy support activities are I would encourage you to really consider them in a very serious way. I don't know, Rita, if you want to comment on that. No. All right. So there is a question: does ADHD has the same importance weight in comparison to Alzheimer or Parkinson's, for example? Do specific diseases score higher? Maybe, Tim, you want to answer this question?
Yeah, thanks, Carmen. Yeah, I mean, I think to answer this question, okay, certainly ADHD as a neurodevelopment disorder, fits in scope as well as Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. So they're both in scope. Does one score specifically higher or the other? I think that the point here is that the applicant sufficiently justifies, which disorder or which disease that they have chosen. So I think the topic is open enough, and it would just warrant sufficient justification which specific disorder that you'd like to study for in the proposal.
Thank you. Rita, do you want to complement? No? Perfect. So we remain in topic 1. And it's a bit similar, well, not a similar question, but also addressing whether, they have to focus on one disease or more. Can we focus on one brain disease, or do they need to consider multiple? I think this is for any of you. Maybe, Tim, you want to take it?
Yeah, sure. It's actually it's stipulated in the call topic text that you can actually focus on one brain disease or several diseases. So it's perfectly in scope to focus on one.
Mm-hmm. If I can just say something just to highlight, because sometimes this question also came, that also in the text is clearly stated that proposals should focus in only one of the following groups: neurological, neurodevelopmental, or neurodegenerative diseases or disorders. So, as Tim said, it can focus in one disease, but it needs to be focused only in one of these groups.
There is a sort of follow-up question, again, on the sort of diseases, asking whether this first call is related only to neurological diseases, or could psychiatric diseases be suitable as well? Tim, what do you think?
Yeah. So, well, evidence is pointing more to the role of pollutant exposure to developing neurodegenerative diseases, and also showing the risks of increased cognitive impairment. And then there is also the aspect that there's more evidence pointing to neurotoxicity having a particular effect in this very vulnerable period in brain development. So that's why we focused on these three areas of neurodegenerative, cognitive impairment, and neurodevelopmental disorders. And we also didn't want to broaden the scope up too much. So that's why the calls focused more on those topics and not per se on psychiatric diseases. Maybe I can just quickly complement to say that for neurodevelopmental disorders, they do cover like autism and ADHD, which are sometimes considered, as mental disorders. It's you just need to follow the ICD classification as is noted in one of the footnotes. But in general, the three areas that I just referred to, these are the areas that we like to see the topic focused at.
Thanks a lot, Tim. And we remain in your topic, and I think with a question for you, which is about the policy needs that this call for the brain topic is answering to.
Can take that one, maybe.
Yeah, Rita, would you like to take it, or would you like
to? If you want, you can take it also.
No, please go ahead.
So understanding the impacts of pollution on brain diseases and disorders is a very relevant issue for several different policies. All of the policies that tackle disease prevention and the policies that aim at increasing health of populations. So I can mention some, and then I will let Tim complement. I could think about the global health strategy, the zero pollution action plan, all the policies that are targeting urban health, to give some examples, but maybe Tim has others on the list.
No, I think you led it very well. Just to say, I mean, the policies like if you're looking at particle matters, traffic pollution, obviously, one could consider, in the long term, some responses and changes to, let's say, traffic. I'm just picking one example, but it's just more general aspects towards indeed health.
Thank you. Now a question also on the first topic that is asking whether proposals could suggest more budget than the 6-7 million euros that are mentioned in the topic. And the answer is yes, this is just an indication. So actually the topic, the proposal budget needs to be in adequation with the activities that you are proposing to develop during the life of the project. So as long as this is, you need a sort of higher budget or a smaller budget in order to proceed with all those activities, and you justify sufficiently for the evaluation, it's fine. This is just an indication of what we thought when we prepared the topic, but higher or smaller budget are fine. Now there is another question on this topic. How much are neurotoxic chemicals in the focus of this call? Which exposome are in the focus of the call? This is for you.
Yeah, I can start. The impacts of neurotoxic chemicals in the development of brain disorders and diseases, it's a topic that is fully under scope of this call. There are, in the description of the call, there are even some research activities mentioned in the list of potential research activities that specifically mention neurotoxic effects. which are important aspects, for example, for neurodevelopmental diseases and disorders. I don't know, Tim, if you want to complement.
Well, yeah, no, it's basically, I think you covered that well. Also, I could just say that, yeah, the neurotoxicity is certainly from the perspective of neurodevelopmental disorders, certainly really relevant. And then obviously, neurotoxicity and neuroinflammation, also play an important role for the, neurodegenerative disease, development of neurodegenerative diseases. So, no, yeah. So how much are they in focus of this call? I think it's very relevant that these chemicals relate to the health of the neurons. Yeah, in fact, yeah, and I'll keep it to that actually.
Thank you. Well, before continuing, let me thank everybody for being, so active and asking so many questions. And just to remind that if your question is not answered during this session, because we might not have the time to answer all the questions, they will be answered included in the frequently asked questions that it's available in the website. But we continue, and the next question is about TRLs. There is no TRL indicated, which is often the case in our topics. So is it expected that the proposers should use mature texts for the studies, or there is margin to develop new texts, new technologies? Rita, what do you think?
Yeah, I would answer that no. This call can include both technologies that are already at an advanced state of development, or it can include activities that address the development of technologies from scratch. There is, we don't indicate any prerequisite on the TRL of the solutions that are going to be developed. So any stage of development of technologies could be addressed in this call.
Thank you, Rita. Very clear. Now we have a question around the involvement from SSH's perspective, whether it is expected in these topics, and any specific discipline or perspective, because the call does not specify. Rita, this is for you.
Yeah, we mentioned the need to involve where relevant these aspects in the calls. I think they are relevant for both of the topics. Yes, they should be addressed when they are related with the proposal.
Thank you. So I do not see any other question in the Slido. I understand that we managed to answer all the questions that were put forward. I'm going to wait a few seconds to see if anything is coming. No, I'm informed that nothing else is there in the waiting. So let me just remind you that you can always ask additional questions, that they will be answered through the portal in the frequently asked questions. And I will conclude now the session by thanking you for your high interest and by wishing all the best, a lot of success in the process that will follow. Thanks a lot and have a great day.
So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the session on Destination 3, Tackling Diseases and Reducing Disease Burden. My name is Grzegorz Owsianik. I'm team leader and also policy officer for non-communicable diseases in the unit D1, combating diseases of Directorate People, Health and Society of the DG RTD. And in the studio, I'm together with my colleagues connected online. So I would like to present my colleague Evelyn de Portere, my colleague Elmar Nimesgern, my colleague Tim Rijmakers, and also João Medeira. I hope, João, I pronounce your first name very well. So, okay. So, before we go to the question and answer part, I will give you a very short introduction to Destination 3. So, Destination 3 is a focus on communicable and non-communicable diseases that cause the greatest amount of premature death and disabilities in the EU and worldwide. And through the topics in the Destination 3, we are trying to address an urgent need for the research and innovation to develop the public health intervention, preventive, diagnostic and therapeutic approaches, alternatives to antimicrobials, as well as improve existing preparedness and response strategies to create tangible impacts. And we are taking into account different types of the issues, like, for example, sex and gender related issues. So in the work program 2025, so next slide, please, we present 7 topics. 6 of these topics are research and innovation actions, and we have 1 coordination and support action. So I will briefly read the titles of the topics. So we have a topic, Disease 01, testing safety and efficacy of phage therapy for the treatment of antibiotic-resistant bacterial infections. May I have? Oh, yeah. Then we have a topic, Disease 02, which is the only 2-stage topic in the Destination 3 on advancing innovative interventions for mental, behavioral, and neurodevelopmental disorders. Then the topic, Disease 03, development of antibodies and antibody-derived proteins for the prevention and treatment of infectious diseases with epidemic potential. Then the topic, Disease 04, leveraging artificial intelligence for pandemic preparedness and response. Topic 06, implementation research addressing strategies to strengthen health system for equitable high-quality care and health outcomes in the context of non-communicable diseases. And then the last research and innovation action, topic Disease 07, tackling high burden for patients and under-researched medical conditions. And the only one coordination and support actions, so topic Disease 05, support to the functioning of the global research collaboration for infectious disease preparedness. So GLOPID-R topic. So before we move to the question and answer part, so we will use the Slido through which you will have opportunities to send your questions. So please use the QR code which is just displayed on the screen. So we will only answer the questions related to the topics of Destination 3. So please, when you ask the question, make sure that you are sending the question for the topics which have in the code word disease. So this is really the hallmark of our Destination 3 topics. In case you would like to ask the questions related to the cross-cutting issues, we had the devoted sessions to this type of issues or aspects this morning. So please look to the recordings of the morning sessions. I think they are either already available or will be available soon. And nevertheless, if something is still unclear, you will have always possibility to send your questions to us, either through the network of the national contact points or through research inquiry service, which is available on the funding and tenders opportunities portal. So, and again, please remember to include in your question the topic code. So, for example, disease 01 or disease 02. You don't have to write the full topic code, but to nicely identify to which topic we have to provide answer, we would like to need this information in your questions in Slido. So I think without further ado, we can move to the Q&A part of our session. So yes, please start to send your questions. So from time to time, we will show you the QR code, which will help you to send us the questions. So we have already questions, so I will read them and then I will ask my colleagues to provide the answer, because the colleagues who are connected today are the principal drafters of these topics. So the topic disease 02, what does active substances mean? A mainly pharmacological intervention or treatment? Can it be paired with non-pharmacological methods? So topic 02, and this is a topic of Tim.
Yeah, hello. Yes, so the question touches on 2 points. That's why I'll just start with saying that the innovative intervention that we're looking for is indeed a combination of an active substance, and then that's complemented by this another approach. Now, on active substance, this term was specifically chosen to have a really broad meaning. It's referring to a chemical entity or a molecular entity, that achieves this intended therapeutic benefit. Much like acetyl salicylic acid is the active substance of aspirin, for example. Then to come back to the second question, the second part of the question, certainly this can be paired with a non-pharmacological method. There's this complementary approaches. That has been also specified in the text. They relate to, like, can be neurostimulation, neuroimaging, digital, psychotherapy, but also it's explicitly written non-pharmaceutical or non-pharmacological. So I think that sufficiently answers that.
Thank you, Tim. So we have a second question for Evelyn. Evelyn, for your topic disease 04, can we use this call also for vaccine development acceleration? For example, epitope and immunogenicity prediction.
Thank you, Greg. So topic disease 04 is on leveraging artificial intelligence for pandemic preparedness and response. And so basically, as long as the proposal indicates the use of artificial intelligence for epitope and immunogenicity prediction, for example, that definitely is within scope. So the short answer is yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Evelyn. So we have a next question. Unfortunately, there is no topic code here, but I'm pretty sure that the question is for a topic disease 07. So I will ask also Tim to answer. Will axial spondyloarthritis be considered in this topic? Although a project was funded in the last round addressing rheumatoid arthritis, or is this too close? Tim.
Yes. So, yeah, I understand that there are some difference between rheumatoid arthritis and axial spondyloarthritis. On genetics and on immunological markers and so forth, and on which joints are affected. But actually, it's up to the applicant to really justify in the proposal, the differences and the need to study that area, and also fulfilling the other criteria, for example, that it is insufficiently understood, inaccurately diagnosed, or inadequately treated, and as such is a high burden for patients and society. So yeah, it's up to the applicant to sufficiently justify the choice of the medical condition.
Thank you, Tim. So the next question for the topic disease 06. The suggested budget is euro 3-4 millions. Will you consider project outside this range? For example, less than 3 millions? So the short answer is yes, because the applicants are completely free to propose the budget which is relevant to the proposed work. No, that it's duly justified by the work plan. So yes, this is only the estimates which we propose, like a typical project would need to fulfill the requirements in the scope of the topic. So next question. So it's for Evelyn. So topic disease 04. Is drug development based on artificial intelligence technology within the scope for this topic?
Thank you, Greg. So indeed, this would be in scope if it's also the clear link, obviously, with pandemic preparedness and response. So, but it's about really, this topic is really about making how to use artificial intelligence, and it's a very broad scope for stronger pandemic preparedness and response. Over.
Thank you, Evelyn. So the next question. So topic disease 02. So Tim, for you. How important is the pharmacological component? In other words, can the proposal focus primarily on cognitive behavioral therapy?
Yes, so the idea was that we would have a combination approach of this active substance with another multidisciplinary approach, and as such, you'd improve the efficacy and also the safety of the intervention, and also possibly like tailor it to the specific to the individual or to the patient. So it is important to have the two components there, the active substance, and in this case, it looks like the cognitive behavioral therapy would fit more under this other multidisciplinary approach. So yeah, that's the way that I would take that. Ideally, maybe in this case, because I read it as the wish is to primarily focus on cognitive behavioral therapy, but maybe this group could reach out and work together with another group that is working on an active substance, and together have a great solution.
Thank you, Tim. So the next question is for disease 07. So again, Tim, for you. From the scoping study linked to the topic, the burden of post-COVID-19, table 4.5, would be eligible. Could you confirm this?
Yes, so I should maybe first say that the scoping study provided, an interesting list of or groups of disorders. There were 12 groups of disorders that were identified, but I should say it was a non-exhaustive list. So it's also up to the applicant to justify, so they can choose areas also that were also not mentioned in the scoping study. I think that's important just to say that now. You're not being restricted by the scoping study, but the scoping study sets the scene for the call topic. Whether it's in there or not, as long as you sufficiently justify, and it's also written in the text that you can refer to key literature, etc., and so forth, on insufficiently understood, inaccurately diagnosed, inadequately treated in a significant proportion of patients, and as such being a high burden.
Thank you, Tim. So next question. also for you. So topic disease 02, innovative intervention topic. Do proposals have to work on a product based on active substances and a non-invasive approach? For example, neurosimulation.
Yeah, this is touches on what I said earlier, and is a question pretty similar to what was asked earlier, in the sense that yeah, we would like to have this combination approach to achieve something more effective and also more safer in use, and also something that's more tailored to the individual. So it would be best that it would be this and component of an active substance and another approach, and as is written, a non-invasive approach. That's something that we're aiming for.
Thank you, Tim. So topic disease 04. So Evelyn, topic disease 04 mentions scout, assemble and prepare appropriate fair data sets, for example, COVID-19 influenza. Are there any type of expectations for specific data sets?
In terms of expectations for the data sets, so for artificial intelligence topic, it's really that they are fair data sets, but not in terms, no specific expectations for specific data sets related to specific diseases. But again, it's about the use of those data sets for strengthening pandemic preparedness and response through the use of artificial intelligence. Over.
Thank you, Evelyn. So, question for the topic disease 06, so GACD topic. Will collaborators in India be eligible to apply for funding? So this is the typical cross-cutting issue questions related to the funding eligibility. So please refer to the early sessions. So it's there. And all eligibility criteria are specified in the general annexes to the work program with the list of countries which are eligible for direct funding. So next question. So the question for the topic disease 01. So Elmar, this is for you. Do you expect that the phage product is already in place to move on to trials, or can the phage product be developed during the project?
I would say the focus is clearly on the clinical testing. I mean, if you read the topic, it does really not mention development of the phage product as such. Now, given the particular nature of phage therapies, I cannot exclude that there may have to be some element of adaptation of the phages to a particular infection or infectious agent. I mean, if you read the topic, what we really want to get is quantifiable, verifiable, and replicable data on the safety and efficacy of phage therapy for human use. So if at the end of the day you spend 90% of your budget and your work on developing a new phage therapy and then do a little first-in-man human trial to do some early safety testing, that clearly would not comply with what we expect here. So, you know, it's a bit a wishy-washy answer, but I think that's the best I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, Elmar. So the next question, unfortunately, we don't have the topic code for these questions. So to be really sure that we answer it in line with the you know, the right topic, I suggest that the author of these questions resend the questions with the topic code. Okay, so we will answer this question after the next one. Okay, so please resend your question. Okay, so the question for the topic disease 03. Do you reward to include partners from more countries that only the 3 necessary and represent by that more European regions, for instance, Eastern Europe. So this is for Xiao. So Xiao, could you please provide the answer?
Yes. So not specially, as long as it comply with the eligibility criteria and the consortium formation rules. So to have the 3 necessary partners. Of course, if this, if the inclusion of a specific region adds on the proposal, or it justifies in the proposal in terms of the EU added value, or the conclusion of trials, for example, then it can be, but it's not specifically by having one or other region that the proposal will be more or less important, just for that, just for the geographical reason. But if it's justified in terms of why inclusion of that provides an added value, sure, it can be considered as part of the evaluation.
Thank you very much. So we move to the next question. So the question for the topic DZ02. So Tim, what is meant by novel intervention in this topic?
Okay, so yeah, it's the footnote in the text. It specifies that it should be based on a new and/or alternative approach aimed at achieving this lasting therapeutic benefit, which we want to see. As it says, this new and/or alternative approach, and it's this combination. I mean, you can also achieve this novelty because there's this active substance, and then there's this other multidisciplinary approach. So by combining, I think you can achieve novelty, yeah, and also simply if it's an emerging area or a new pathways involved, or it can be interpreted quite broadly, let's say.
Thank you, Tim. So the next question for the topic disease 04. So Evelyn, is there any list of infectious diseases to be in scope other than COVID, probably 19 or influenza?
Yes, thanks, Greg. I imagine that this question is also related to the question before on the use of the data sets, because that's where the examples are given. The reason that these examples were given is that there is a lot of data sets, fair data sets out there on these 2 diseases, on COVID-19 and influenza, but these are examples, and the scope is definitely not restricted to these diseases. So if people have good, fair data sets on any other relevant disease that they consider relevant in the context of using artificial intelligence for, or demonstrating the use of artificial intelligence for a better preparedness and response, that is totally possible. So there is no limitation with regards to COVID-19 or influenza.
Thank you, Evelyn. So the next question for the topic disease 02. It might be a mistake, for this topic code. Is the participation? Oops. Okay, so the question disappeared. So we have another question. So a question for the topic disease 04. So Evelyn, for epidemic prediction and response only, vaccine development acceleration, for example, epitope and immunogenicity prediction, out of scope? I think this is a similar question we had already.
Exactly. Thanks, Greg. And so just to specify, I mean, in the scope, the first bullet point, it's really very broad. So develop new or improve existing AI-based tools, methods, technologies. geared towards greater safety, efficiency, and impact of medical, societal, or logistical countermeasures. So it's really very broad. So as long as it's not only for prediction and response, it's really for pandemic preparedness and response, meaning this covers the full range of activities that are relevant, that are needed for ensuring a good preparedness and response to an emergency or an epidemic or a pandemic. So if you want to demonstrate the use of a certain AI-based method that accelerates the development and therefore possibly the availability of a vaccine to respond to an epidemic, that is in scope. Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn. So the next question is for topic disease 06, so GACD topic. Could you please give an overview of the GACD call on implementation research on health system strengthening for NCDs? So as an overview, you can look at the presentation which is attached to this session. So we have the full presentation with the audio, with an overview of the call, and of course the text in the work program is a legal document which specifies all aspects of this call. So please refer to the original, but then for an overview you can listen to the presentation which is attached to the session. So the next question is for the topic disease 07. How best to involve patients' organizations? Could you help connect us to the organization outside of Denmark and Sweden? So topic 07, it's a topic for Tim.
Yeah, so indeed the topic strongly encourages involvement of patient organizations, and basically the funding and tender portal has also a section on partners interested in particular call topics. So I would suggest that you state your interest there, and in this way look for partners. Otherwise, I would suggest that you also reach out to your national contact points and see how they can advise you, because this is also their task in guiding you in the proposal and in outreach activities.
Thank you, Tim. So, question for the topic disease 03, Xiao, for you. Can you explain in which way we should integrate the EasyDoor project in our proposal? Do we have to get in contact with them?
So yes, so it's not a requirement that you integrate, or the proposals integrate the EasyDoor project. So the EasyDoor project is given as an example of research infrastructure supported by the European Commission. What we say is that the project should leverage on already existing research infrastructures and developed services that were developed by, as example, EasyDoor and or by the other research infrastructures we are part. So it's not mandatory that the project itself is integrated. What we see as an added value or a benefit is that within the scope of the research and the clinical and the development activities, the services and the providers of these research activities are or were developed within this infrastructure. So you can contact EasyDoor, you can contact the other research infrastructures, ERINA, MBC, as examples, but they don't need to be part of the consortium, just to make that clear.
Thank you, Xiao. So next question for the topic disease 07, Tim. Are gynecological cancers included in the gynecological diseases, or is it just chronic gynecological diseases?
Yeah, so yeah, in this, for this particular topic, yeah, we're looking actually to enhance research and innovation in certain medical conditions or disease areas or disorders that are really much in need of advancement. For example, like chronic fatigue. So when it comes to cancers, then relatively speaking, research in that area is pretty much advanced. But so it isn't indeed defined gynecological diseases as an area where there'd be this portfolio approach. I think that in this case, I would, once again, turn it around and say, having in mind that we're really looking for those under-researched, high-burden conditions, and I would like that the applicants, if they do want to push forward with this area, that they sufficiently justify it in their proposal.
Thank you, Tim. So, topic disease 02. So it's also for you. Is it strongly recommended to include components like genetics or neuroimaging, or can other non-biological predictions be sufficient?
Yes. This is quite specific in nature. I think that we're not excluding these other non-biological predictors. It's not very clear to me what that is, but the topic is written rather open. Neuroimaging was also mentioned as one of these multidisciplinary approaches, one of a number of, and they were simply also as examples. So, I can only say that, that there is no specific exclusion. And once again, I'd like to just turn this around and say that, if there are specific approaches or methods that you're taking, that you wish to take, then please justify sufficiently why you're choosing that rather than maybe some genetic approaches. I think that's what I would say.
Thank you, Tim. So next question, Elmar, for disease 01. This topic has clinical focus. How much phage research is encouraged as outcome and involvement of phage researcher clinician?
I actually am not sure I understood what the person asking wants to get out of it. I think it is along the lines of what we had already discussed, which is how much research on phage therapy and the development of the therapy before you get into clinical testing is possible. And I think I have already answered that. If you have a more specific question that I did not yet address with this, please come back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elmar. So, question for the topic disease 04. So I will ask Evelyn. Are prophylactic vaccines included, or it is only therapeutic vaccines? It would be great to give examples to avoid mistakes.
Thank you, Greg. So again, it's very broad, and there's no specific indicated focus on one type of vaccine or another, or even other medical countermeasures. So it really says in the first bullet under the scope, so to leading towards greater safety, efficiency, impact of countermeasures, so medical or societal or logistical, so even the type of countermeasures is broad, aiming at the prevention, containment, or control of epidemics. So prophylactic vaccines would be included if the proposal shows that the use of artificial intelligence is has a direct influence on improving better preparedness or response or for epidemics and pandemics, then that is within the scope. Over.
Thank you, Evelyn. So next question for the topic disease 02. So Tim, for this topic, can we focus on artificial intelligence-based innovation as a prospective solution?
Yeah, I'd like to say that there's no exclusion of this at all. The topic does mention, the use of use and or develop technologies, including digital ones like artificial intelligence, to help implement and monitor efficacy of the intervention and manage the disorder and monitor their progression. So that's also a little bit in line with what you have here on AI-based. I believe that, if I understand the question, this AI-based innovation as a prospective solution, looking forward. I guess it's more like predictive. So, and in any case, I don't think there is no exclusion. And once again, please justify sufficiently.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Next question for the topic disease 01. So Elmar, does the requirement to have the RCT protocol delivery date by month 12 mean that the regulatory authorities must have approved it by month 12?
That was my understanding, yes. But clearly what you must have done is certainly have submitted it. We know that in the EU, the approval period currently stands at about 110 days for a multi-country clinical trial. That would mean you would have, whatever, 7-8 months to submit your application. But I mean, the thing is that you will need, this is not an indication from all we know where you can recruit patients like off the street in a few weeks. Rather, recruitment will take time, and we want really projects that provide, as I already said in an answer to an earlier question, to really provide this conclusive evidence as best as the project can. And for that, the trial has to start. And for the trial to start, you need to have the regulatory approval to start. And if you take 3 years to get your project or even your trial approved, obviously a total project duration for this kind of project may be a bit longer than maybe for some other types of projects, but also that with available budget and so on has to stay reasonable. So if you have really no clue at all on how you're going to do your clinical trial, and only now at the application stage start to reflect on how you would do it, and you better get moving quickly because you have to get going in order to have a convincing project that can deliver the clinical trial results in the project duration. We do not want to invest funding only for the planning of a trial, which then would be submitted towards the end of the project. We want to fund projects that actually run the clinical studies and bring them to conclusion. And again, we expect studies in this space to take a little bit of time. And therefore, we really want to push these projects to get going and have the regulatory approval to do so quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Elmar. So question for the topic disease 04. Evelyn, how should project include the issue of getting health data from member states by relying on other EU initiatives like EHDS?
Yes, thank you. So basically, if the proposal would like to use or the use of data sets. It needs to be fair data sets, so meaning findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable, because otherwise it will be difficult to replicate. And so these fair data sets can, if it's possible, to use to use existing research infrastructures, such and the future. It's not future anymore. The European Health Data Space. That's indeed put forward as an option. So to try to leverage as much as possible the existing research and data infrastructures and the EHDS.
Thank you, Evelyn. So Elmar, the question for you. What is the participation scheme for the topic Disease 01? Would joining it enable future involvement in this partnership's call? I assume in the course of the One Health AMR partnership. I don't know. That's quite difficult to understand this question.
Well, maybe I can try to give some more general answers. One is that, I mean, when you submit your application, you need to submit it in a way that the expert evaluators can look at it on its merit, and you need to have all the critical elements in the proposal, because otherwise you're not going to get a fair and likely successful evaluation. Now, that does not exclude that you adapt the composition if during the grant, our colleagues at Tadea, who are then managing the grant, will have to assess that within the rules of the game. But normally, and this happens, but it's not something that you can plan, or I would recommend planning from the start, because then again, you kind of selling an empty, or a proposal where the evaluators don't really know what you're going to do. And remember that the implementation is an important criteria for which the evaluators need to know who the applicants are. Now, if there is a question indeed, Greg, about a potential connection with the One Health AMR partnership, during project implementation, I think relevant connections with other initiatives and scientific endeavors, including those that will be funded within the frame of One Health AMR partnership, will be encouraged. But it's a bit difficult for me to see how you're going to deal with that in your proposal, because again, our system happens to be that each and every individual proposal is evaluated on its merit. And if you then put provisos and connections of that application with other things that are not fully presented in your proposal, then again, you will have a challenge with the evaluation by the peer reviewer. So I would really, because I mean, you need to get your proposal across the threshold of, in a very likely, rather competitive evaluation. And then just a final sentence. It's a bit, really perhaps the most important principle of all our funding is that the applicants need to have the resources to carry out the project. Otherwise, the authorizing officer who has to decide on funding on signing the grant at the end, even irrespective of evaluation, if there are doubts about that, then from EU side, we cannot sign the grant. And therefore, you really have to be careful in adding too many, external connections just from the mechanics of the evaluation and of the grant implementation. All that said, scientifically relevant collaborations, connections are, of course, encouraged in really all our proposals. But this project needs to be a self-standing entity. Thank you. Over.
Thank you, Elmar. So for the next question, which is related to the EU-wide clinical trial on invasive neuromodulation therapy of non-genetic form of Alzheimer's disease, I would suggest that the author of this question resends it with the right topic code, because it's very hard to match it with our topics in work program 25, because topic 03 is on infectious diseases, and topic 01 it's on phage therapy. So to have a correct answer, I would ask the author of this question to resend it with the right topic code. Okay, so now we have a question for the topic disease 02. Can we focus on non-pharmaceutical therapeutic solutions primarily, for example, CBTs, instead of pharmaceutical approaches? So, Tim.
Yeah, I think this question leans into a bit of what a previous question also. But just to say, well, actually, the focus is on this combination. So I mean, we're coming back to the issue of an active substance combined with a complementary approach. For example, your cognitive-based therapy. So it's a combination. So if you focus, it would not fit the scope to only focus on the cognitive-based therapy. It's the combination that matters.
Thank you, Tim. So the next question for Elmar, disease 01. Testing safety and efficacy of phage. QI's prevention of infections, for instance, decolonization, is in scope?
The scope on the type of infection is large. I'm just that I don't say anything to treat bacterial infections that do not respond to conventional therapeutic options. So if this decolonization were to be an issue that cannot be addressed with other things, a conventional treatment option, then I would argue, yes, this should be also in scope.
Thank you, Elmar. So the next question for disease 03, but this might be a mistake because the topic disease 03 is on prevention and treatment of infectious diseases with epidemic potential, and the question is about the focus on a single non-communicable disease or multiple chronic conditions. So please check to which topic you would like to ask this question and resend it through a Slido. Okay, we have another question, and the question is for topic disease 07. So, Tim, is axial spondyloarthritis in scope, even though the discussion paper, so scoping paper, says arthritis, no back?
Yeah, so two elements here. So as I mentioned earlier, the scoping paper provides this non-exhaustive list of medical conditions. So, even if there are conditions mentioned in there, and in this case, the no back, I guess it's referring to the spinal column. So, as in arthritis, not related to the back. But as I said, the two elements are the scoping paper sets the scene, but nothing is restrictive in there. And secondly, this is this axial spondyloarthritis. As there was a topic on rheumatoid arthritis before, just please justify sufficiently that the difference. So regarding the scoping paper, as mentioned, arthritis, no back. I wouldn't feel restricted in this wording, as any condition, as long as it's sufficiently justified, is fine.
Thank you, Tim. So next question is for the topic DZ06. Is it necessary that the exact evidence-based intervention, the implementation of which is studied, is pre-decided already in the proposal? Actually, the scope of the topic is on implementation research and of the evidence-based intervention. So it will be extremely difficult to assess the proposal if this evidence-based intervention is not decided at the stage of sending the application to the call. So I think the applicants have to really make very clear what they are going to do and which evidence-based intervention they will implement for the proposed study. So the next question is for topic disease 01. Are pathogens rated so that the project targeting bacteria being multi-drug resistance to one or more last resort antibiotics are more likely to get funded? So Elmar, it's for you.
I'm not totally sure that I captured all of the question, but I can only repeat what I said. It's really about difficult to treat infections. And I would say it's not, I think it is rather hard to make like a hierarchy, this is the most difficult and this is the second most difficult, third most difficult, and so on and so forth. So the proposal is evaluated in its entirety. If you propose something, a trial that would address an infection that can easily be treated with a first-line antibiotic therapy, then you are out of scope. But there are a range of difficult to treat infections, and for those we want to have proposals that address that use fast therapy and demonstrate its efficacy and safety. And I would not vary too much if, that it's the, quadruple resistant against I don't know what indication. We have a big challenge with all kinds of resistant infections, and I would say all of those are in scope. And the evaluation success depends on the quality of the overall proposal, which obviously for this complex clinical trial with a complex product will have to demonstrate excellence and quality on all these different aspects. And don't worry too much about whether someone else might have a proposal where the bug is even yet a bit more difficult to treat than your bug, so to speak. Thank you. Over.
Thank you, Elmar. So the next question is for the topic disease 06. Is there any preferred geographical balance, spread, or total number of low and middle income countries to include? For example, 2 from the same global region or 6 global? So the answer is that there is no preferred geographical balance, and it's completely up to the applicants to include low and middle income countries in their proposal. They should have this low and middle income countries, must have. This is one of the requirements of the topic, but the number and from which global region they select these countries, they plan the research in these countries, it's up to them. So the next question for the topic disease 01. So Elmar, the call indicates a total budget 45 million for 3 projects, with 15 million allocated by EU per project. Is any co-funding from applicants required?
Well, this is really an overarching question that applies to each and every one of our grants. First, I would like to recall what Greg earlier said on a question on this budget brackets or range, that what matters is that you prepare a convincing proposal which allows you to carry out the project. And for that, you need to request the necessary funding so that together with own resources, you have the ability to carry out the project as it is presented. Now, we have certain reimbursement rates, which for not-for-profit organizations are obviously normally 100% plus a little bit of overhead. Let's put it that way. If you are planning to use own resources in like a significant amount, you need to convince the applicant, the evaluators, that this is sensible and is going to come. But I would argue that each and every project, even with 100% funding for the new costs, and will have an element of co-funding because the principal investigator salary very often is not paid from the grant, and so on and so forth. So we do not expect anything that's not written in the application. You need to prepare a proposal that is fully costed and is very clear to the evaluators that it can be carried out with the resources you have at your disposal, either requested from the EU or from the institution where you are, or from investors, or who knows wherever those resources come from.
Thank you, Elmar. So next question for the topic disease 02. To what extent do you consider molecular, biochemical, or omics signatures, as well as biomarkers, a crucial element to this call? Tim.
Yes, so the focus should be in performing this clinical study into safety and efficacy. That's foremost of interest, but taking also every opportunity to understand the mechanism of action, so where one would follow the approaches as mentioned in the question. Because in the end, you also want to reveal potential pathways to personalized medicine, and this could be one of the ways. So it is an important component, but the major element is to perform this a robust safety and efficacy clinical study.
Thank you, Tim. So next question for the topic disease 04. So Evelyn, for you. Is the proposal reviewed by a multidisciplinary expert, for example, health, epidemiology, and AI experts?
Yes, thanks. So obviously the evaluation is organized by our colleagues in HDEA. So speaking under their control, usually all evaluations happen in a multidisciplinary manner. So yes, that's the usual way of working. Over.
Okay, thank you, Evelyn, very much for this answer. I think we are, slowly coming to the end of this session. So I will check with my colleagues. Yes. So we have to stop here. So thank you very much for your participation and excellent questions, and also my colleagues who provided the answer to these questions. So for the questions we are not able to answer during this session, we will try to provide the frequently asked question entry to the specific topics on the funding and tenders opportunities portal. Also, in case you would have any other questions, during preparation of your proposals, so don't hesitate to reach out to the network of the national contact points. They can then resend the question to us in case they will be not able to provide the answer directly. Another option is to use a research inquiry system at the funding and tenders opportunities portal. So please use all these opportunities to ask your questions that you might have during the preparation of your proposals. Yes, we would like to wish you all best luck in preparation of your work, of your studies, and in the submission process. So we will end our session now. So after a short break, we will start the next session for Destination 4. Thank you very much.